It was the retriever's alert senses that first attracted his attention to the base of this elderly oak.
What's that then? Oh, poor thing.
Ben had found a young male squirrel whose mother had either been shot or she had abandoned it. Either way, the youngster had fallen from its dray and would soon starve to death without its mother.
Its eyes were still closed, and I estimated it was about 2.5 weeks old. Clammy and cold, it had just started growing its fur. Clearly it needed warmth, and on the spur of the moment, I offered my glove as temporary protection.
Come on then, Ben.
Within hours, my kitchen had become an emergency feeding centre. With sterilised cow's milk and a pipette at the ready, I gently tried to feed this pathetic individual. If I was going to be successful, I would have to persuade him to accept food every 4 hours, day and night, for a month or so, and to keep him warm and clean to avoid infection.
Come on.
I could see it wasn't going to work. I couldn't get him to take milk from the unyielding tube. In desperation, anything seemed worth trying, even the impossible. A cat is not normally well disposed to rodents, except to eat them. Perhaps it was too much to hope that Beauty might change her nature and accept this sightless alien alongside her recently born kittens. Distracting the cat's attention, I tried giving the young squirrel a start in the right direction, staying close at hand, ready to jump to the rescue if the cat decided to turn on the uninvited guest. Incredibly, Beauty seemed to sense nothing unusual, and the squirrel appeared to be welcomed as a member of the family. Persuading the newcomer to take food was now an urgent priority. Could I persuade him to suckle milk from his foster mother? Richer than cow's milk, the natural milk of a cat is very similar to a mother squirrel's. Very gently, I eased him into position.
Come back, kitten. Come on, Beauty.
Buried beneath a pile of kittens, a flick of the squirrel's tail announced that he'd got the idea. Something of a minor miracle that we'd managed to establish such an unusual relationship. We marked this unique occasion by naming our orphan Sammy Squitten.
Much sought after as a playmate, he did his best to lie low. It was some time before he realised that attack was the best means of defence. With legs becoming stronger, they began to investigate beyond the confines of the basket. The kitchen floor became a new world for exploration. The kittens began to practice the capture-kill behaviour of the carnivore. It's totally alien to the mainly vegetarian squirrel, but Sammy's tail became an attractive target for play attack. Wholeheartedly into the game, he was held firmly between the front paws as the kitten feels for the place behind the skull where, as an adult, he will bite to kill. Sammy's superior speed and agility gave him advantages in getting out of the kitten's way, only to be even more quickly in the way of John Paling.
Come on. Get down. You stay down there.
In his zest for adventure, anything seemed fair game, and nothing escaped his attention. I began to reap the reward suffered by all who, for whatever reason, offer domestic security to a wild creature.
Have this. Come.
If a piece of apple failed to lure him within grasp, a spell of shadow wrestling might finally succeed in putting him in his place.
Oh, come on. You stayed there.
The time was now approaching for John Paling to make a decision about Sammy's future. As soon as he judged that the moment was right, John Paling had always planned to release the orphan back into the wild. So Sammy was given a portable home, which would eventually be taken out and fastened high on a tree in the garden. The fact that Sammy could bite was perhaps no bad thing. He was going to have to be tough to stand up to the harsh world outside.
Now you stay put and show you home.
With a new home came a new diet. Although the social mix of cats and squirrel remained as amicable as ever, the two species preferred to go their own way at meal times. Rejected by the kittens, Sammy's dish of leaves and buds was one way of getting him accustomed to the food which squirrels would now be eating in the wild.
In circumstances like this, all I could do was to give the animal its head, and accept that even the annihilation of any flower arrangement was perhaps the price one has to pay for interfering with the process of nature. Even in domestic security, Sammy's life sometimes swung precariously on a knife edge. He found plastic insulation of electric wiring good to chew, and escaped electrocution only by the narrowest margin. He could strip wire clean in seconds. Here's the most remarkable demonstration of natural squirrel behavior: nest making. Totally untaught by the cats or myself, Sammy demonstrates a new use for a box of tissues and a food mixer.
Now almost fully grown, the time had come for Sammy to taste the freedom of the outside world. John had done his best to weaken the squirrel's association with people and prepared food, and he was now agile and uncontrollable. After obtaining the necessary permission, Sammy was confined into his box, stocked with peanuts, and carried into the garden. There's always considerable risk in releasing a semi-tame animal into the wild. He had been raised in very unusual surroundings, without the opportunity to learn anything from his natural squirrel mother. But Sammy had learnt to be tough and to look after himself in the rough and tumble of Beauty's family. It was now July the 13th, 3 months since Sammy had been found as a scrawny baby. After much heart-searching, John decided it best to give him his freedom. The alternative was permanent captivity. Sammy soon emerged with a peanut and set out exploring his new environment. He quickly found some of the peanuts put out for the birds and wild squirrels. For the first time, he met one of the permanent wild residents in the garden and began to get involved in squirrel disputes, which occur in midsummer as the youngsters leave the nest to join the adult population. In these brief skirmishes, it was impossible for John Paling to positively identify Sammy. It became increasingly evident that the young squirrel was becoming absorbed into the wildlife of Wychwood with the other youngsters searching for new territory. As autumn approached, John was told that a baby squirrel, just like Sammy, had been killed by a neighbour's cat. His box was never occupied again. With only the slimmest chance that Sammy would find his niche and live through the winter, it was inevitable that John should feel pangs of regret, a guilty conscience that perhaps he had let Sammy down, betrayed the confidence that he and Beauty had tried to give the orphan. On January the 20th, after the long, cold, hard winter, an adult squirrel appeared on John's window ledge.
Who are you then? There was something about this squirrel that reminded me immediately of Sammy. That small mark on his forehead that came long ago from one of the kitten's paws. I could hardly believe my eyes. 6 months and 10 days since I'd last seen him. Sammy had returned.
And now, to mark his return from the wild, this rather special grey squirrel gave John a permanent souvenir.
Oh!